morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Sort of, then be quiet. Good morning, welcome to 1 Million Cups, Tulsa edition. Hey guys, there'll be plenty of time to talk afterwards, I promise. Okay. I don't have any jokes for you this morning. Welcome to 1 Million Cups. How many of you this is your first ever time to 1 Million Cups? All right, look at this. About a dozen people, that's great. How many of you this is your, you can't even remember how many times you did it. That's even better, wonderful. All right, for those of you that have never been, and for those of you that don't ever listen when I get the microphone, because I've said this many times, 1 Million Cups, we meet every Wednesday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., and we don't actually move locations, it's right here, every Wednesday morning. So if you came, or if you were somewhere else in the world and you wondered, I wonder if they're having 1 Million Cups at 9 a.m. in Tulsa. We are, we're here. So we have typically 2 startups that present for 6 minutes, and then we get 20 minutes of Q&A with you guys, with the community, whoever you are, and you can pretty much ask anything you want, as long as it's in the spirit and the heart of trying to move that entrepreneur forward. So we started something earlier this year, probably 4 months ago. There were a lot of cool initiatives we were hearing about in the city, and they didn't really fit the startup criteria that we were looking at. But we thought, you know what? This would be really cool to do 1 week every month and just put a few people up to share what they're working on in our great city. So we've shared a couple food ideas 1 week. Last month we did Student Day, and we had 3 students present their startups. What else have we done? Urban planning. We did one on urban art. And we did one on art, that's right. Barron would remember that. Today we're doing a special edition. We're calling it South Downtown Development. You're going to hear 2 projects that are actually developing this neighborhood that we're in. Some people know it as the Cathedral District. We're sort of calling it South Downtown. So to give you a little context on the first guys who are going to present, in May, Tulsa Young Professionals, shout out to Ty Pros, they did an event called Street Cred, and they picked this neighborhood as their featured neighborhood. And so with that, they had a design competition. And the guys that are going to present, Ken and Terrell, they won the design competition. And they designed what they call BAM, which stands for Boston Avenue Multisport, or Multiplex, or Multi-something. You guys know. Anyway, Ty Pros closed down the street, and I think it was something like 3,500 people, 4,000 people came through this neighborhood and got to see a vision cast of what this neighborhood could be with some development projects like you're going to hear today. So we're going to give it up for Kenton and Terrell. They're going to come share for 6 minutes the Boston Avenue Multisport project. So give it up for them.
Good morning, everybody. Can we get a slide, please?
Yes.
Maybe.
Can we get a shout out for that beer?
There we go. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Okay, so Tim mentioned this was a street cred design competition idea. And in response to the design competition, we came up with an idea to overcome what was known as a parking crater in South Downtown. And I don't know if people know this, but Tulsa in South Downtown was named one of the worst parking craters in all the United States.
Just one.
The worst, not just one of them, but the worst one. So we came up with this concept of a multi-purpose sports facility, taking up 2 parking lots just over here a block. Just south of TCC. What we've done is we've elevated the field 24 feet above street level, giving us an opportunity to keep some of the parking at street level covered, which mitigates some of the stormwater runoff. But we've also created an economic development opportunity by bringing 15,000 square feet of shipping containers, reused shipping containers, which we would like to see in the end be used for some sort of incubation type program. You can bring in retail space, juice shops, cleat shops, thing that ties back into the sports part of our program, and then also give people an opportunity to move in for startups and entrepreneurs similar to what we're doing here today. At the south end of our facility, we've got this transition from the upper field deck down to the park, which mirrors the park over by the church at that point. And we've created this triangular platform system of concrete which steps down. There's water features, and Tara will get into some of the net zero sustainability aspects of that. But we wanted to create something that bookended the south part of downtown. We didn't want to recreate a New Guthrie Green, but we wanted to create something similar to that that brought people to the south end of downtown. And I'll hand off to Tara to talk about the sports and sustainability.
So our goal here was to actually create a net zero facility, meaning that it actually generates as much energy as it consumes, or even regenerative, meaning it generates more than it consumes. So to get to that, what we did was we took the surface underneath, and it's hard to see from this angle, but this is actually elevated over a parking deck, over a parking garage here. So we drilled geothermal wells underneath the entire thing, and that generates way more energy than this amount of retail will actually be able to use. 55,000 square feet of mixed-use retail and development opportunities. But so we set taps off to the side, similar to how it was done over there with Guthrie Green for future development. So the energy generated can actually be captured underneath this entire site. In addition to that, we did a closed-loop geothermal well fields tied into the field itself. The closed-loop system would actually heat and cool the field, raising and lowering the ambient temperature to make it playable year-round, melting the snow and ice off. When we melt that snow and ice off, we're going to capture every single bit of rainwater coming off this thing through a cistern system. Go back to the last one. So it's through the cistern system that funnels down through here. So we're actually going to capture the water, use it as part of this water feature coming down, capture it in a giant tank here to irrigate the trees around the perimeter, irrigate the dog park over here, and then use it to even flush toilets and urinals up over here. So we're collecting all the water we need, all the non-potable water we need. On site. The bleachers themselves are going to be shaded by about a 300 kV photovoltaic system that will charge battery packs to power the lights for 3 to 4 hours each night. That's one of the biggest expenses that for most facilities like this. Sometimes it costs up to $2 grand to flip on those lights for 4 hours on a lot of systems like this. We think we can charge those battery packs and power those. So the idea is that it becomes sustainable operational-wise. The programming for this, there's a group here in Tulsa called the Tulsa Field Sports Alliance, and it's a partnership between lacrosse, rugby, ultimate frisbee, flag football, soccer. That group has committed to programming for this facility, and they've stated that they can keep people on this field in use 360 days a year, 7 days a week, with programs and events that are going to be open to the public. So not necessarily just pro or semi-pro type games, but games that people could come participate in to watch at no additional cost. So this is not a professional soccer stadium. This is an actual community asset that people can engage in. Young professionals living downtown can come over at lunchtime, play a pickup ultimate game. You know, these are the kind of things that help us retain young professionals here in town. The idea, the big picture is that, you know, we've done great stuff in the Brady District over there, and Guthrie Green has been fantastic, and the ballpark is fantastic. This is similar to those things, but it's a different angle. It's using sport instead of music or art as the draw on baseball. And so we think we can sort of bookend what's been done in the Brady District over here at this side of the top downtown by using this kind of park.
And I think that gives you guys a quick brief overview of what we're doing. I think we can go ahead and open up now to questions and answers. Do we have?
Okay, terrific. Almost a minute under time. So now's the time when we get to ask questions about them and about this project. So if you have a question, just get my attention, and I'll make sure that the microphone finds you. So we have a question over here.
Did I hear you say dog park? And if so, can you elaborate on that?
Okay, so I was cringing when he said that. We originally had a design park designed into it, but after looking at national dog park design studies, I don't think a dog park, a nice sized dog park would be feasible for that space.
Little dog park.
It'd be a little dog park. It'd be a little dog park. I mean, there's a dog park over at 4th and Peoria that's nice and small. We could do something about that size, maybe twice the size, but we're not going to get a Joe Station or Biscuit Acres in there. It's just not feasible for the space.
Here we have a question on the right.
How much is this? Who will pay for it? How long will this take?
Okay, so tapping through my pre-construction department, we've got budget numbers at about $17 million. To put that in perspective, Guthrie Green cost $12.6 million. So for one block, basically this is 2 blocks. But a lot of it really is a parking garage with it. Happens to have a field over the top of it. And then the build out, and a lot of the stuff using shipping containers really helps keep some of that cost down. We're not developers. We have no real financial stake in this. Other than the fact that I think we're excited about this for Tulsa. We're builders, we're designers. So you know, this is something that we're really going to need private money, maybe a public-private partnership. You know, something similar to how Guthrie Green was built in order to make this happen. one of the things with Guthrie Green was that when they actually built that place, they hadn't really taken into account what it was going to cost to program for the facility. They spent about $500,000 or more a year to program. We feel like this concept has a leg up on that because through the Tulsa Field Sports Alliance, we have programming already in place at no cost to the facility. And that programming will not only guarantee usage of the place, but it'll bring those wallets to downtown to encourage this entrepreneurial incubatorship that Kim mentioned around here. So these retail places, these stores, these restaurants, these pop-up retail smoothie shops and such, they're going to have guaranteed boots there, wallets on the complex of this program. So I think that gives us a leg up.
I have a question. So what's the next step for you now? You said you're not developers, so that's not really what you're looking for. But what are the next actionable steps?
So what we're doing right now is we're actually preparing another set of measure boards. We love this design, but after meeting with Tulsa Field Sports Alliance and some other various organizations, we've gone back to the drawing board a little bit, picked up some key sports-related design elements. We're starting to put together a package of financials, numbers, square footages, and things like that. And our next goal is actually meeting with TCC and the Board of Regents to get their input and their support hopefully behind this because it is their parking. So we need to know whether or not we can use that parking or not, and whether or not they have money for us.
That being said, we're not, the location of this is somewhat irrelevant. The location in this side of downtown I think is good, but this could go in anywhere in the East Village. There's a lot of big open parking lots over here in this part of Tulsa. The Nordam side over here, there's a lot of big space like this. So, this could really go in at any spot. TCC is interested in what this could do to bring to their campus, to bring amenity to their campus. The church is very interested in what this could do as far as them being able to bring kids over for outdoor sports and facilities type usage over there. So I think it has a lot of potential over here, but it could be in any site around town. So we've got meetings scheduled with working on TCC, the Board of Regents, Downtown Coordination Council. We've already met with the Chamber, the Tulsa Field Sports Alliance. We've got the backing of some of those groups already. So, and the next step is start to meet with people that have the money.
I may be the pessimist in the room. I get how it brings all kinds of traffic for retail and things like that, but what about where you take up 2 parking lots and it looks like everybody's going to be parking underneath it, the facility, right? What does that do to parking all around for the businesses that aren't retail? So A, what's that going to do to the south downtown as far as taking up all of the parking that we already don't have? And B, how long would the project like this take, and what's that going to do to the ecosystem, like through all the construction and all that stuff? Is it going to shut down roads and make me late for work every day?
I'll take the first part. So that's why we originally intended to meet with a whole bunch of organizations to get buy-in and support before we met with TCC, realizing that we are actually removing about 60% of the parking that does exist there. We realize that's something we need to figure out quick. And so the idea is we meet with TCC, see what their requirements are, because all this parking is not used during full school day. They have a lot of parking, so we need to meet with TCC to see what is their capacity for parking. But then that's why we're also going to meet with the Downtown Coordinating Council to see what their master plan for the city is, to see if there's other parking needs for other future developments that they need. And if we come back and we need a 4-story parking garage, we have 3 or 4 different design options that include creating a parking garage that will facilitate that kind of parking.
So as far as during construction, we don't plan on, a lot of these roads are 3 or 4 lane on each side. There's no reason that we'd ever have to close more than 1 lane around the perimeter just for safety precautions. We have talked back and forth, and we've got a pre-development meeting with the city about the option of closing or not closing 11th Street under there. It could go either way. We could do stuff with it no matter what. But as far as the overall environmental and ecological impact, what we're actually doing here is, one, we're reducing the heat island effect for downtown by getting rid of a giant black asphalt heat sink, and creating light-colored concrete, green space, broken up by water features. And then the other side of that is we're taking a completely impervious surface and making it pervious, meaning we're promoting water collection, water infiltration. So it is a huge ecological plus.
Hey, do you guys have any idea, I know you said you didn't get the financials, but what kind of revenue can be generated from, I don't know if that's A or B, retail space, and then the amount of parking spaces?
So we haven't dived straight into all that yet. We do have one types of retail spaces. The shipping container spaces, which will probably be broken up into neighborhood type retail, but then we also have the entrepreneurial incubator system, which probably wouldn't be a lot of revenue generating space. We do have a space in the southeast corner over here, which is actually a 2-story, really high-end, that'd be your Class A type retail space, which might be an opportunity to bring in somebody like REI, some huge anchor retail space down there.
Hi guys, I love your project. That's surprising to anybody. Have you considered anything like a Kickstarter for the Tulsa community to actually, as individuals, invest in this? Because I think we underestimate in Tulsa a lot the power of people, and I think I would give a lot of money to this, and I think a lot of people would to see it happen. Didn't know if you considered anything like that.
I haven't.
I think it's good, but I think that Kit and I have some work to do before we can do that. We've got to get some stuff dialed in. Some of those things as far as retail numbers, some of the actual energy cost versus what we can generate from the facility. We need to dial it in a little tighter first, and that's what we're doing. We have meetings. We meet every week with our design team. It's not just us. There's also 2 other guys, Scott Pardee and James Parker, that are involved in this as well with us. And so we need to dial it in a little tighter before we start with something like that. And we also want to get the blessing of some of these entities like TCC before we go out and start funding something to show that, hey, we might be taking your parking lot. Is that okay? But we've also been meeting with the neighborhood associations both here, and we were represented at the East Village Neighborhood Association on Tuesday, and it's got really good responses.
While we think of more questions, I have a question. What other cities have you looked at who've done something similar to this, and what have you learned from those examples?
So when I was at Greenville in Philadelphia last year, my hotel room looked out over the 6th floor of a building that had a similar sort of rooftop sports field on it, and literally every time I looked out the window, it was in use. And that really, I'd had this idea in the back of my head for a long time, what we needed for downtown Tulsa, but that really galvanized it for me, saying, gosh, in Philadelphia, this thing is just in use all the time. There's a lot of different places. Kansas City's got a really great multi-sport complex that has the fields permanently lined for lacrosse, ultimate soccer, rugby. So there's a lot of cities out there in inner cities that have made this happen. The Tulsa Field Sports Alliance, actually, we got a $700,000 grant towards something like this from a group that promotes social equity through sport, that's designed to promote sports fields and interdispersal loops in cities. So there's a number of cities around the country that have made this happen for the sake of attracting and retaining young professionals and giving people something to do besides bars and restaurants in the downtown area.
More questions?
Since you said that they were going to have a dog park there and now they're not, have you thought about what about a community garden or something like that instead?
Love the idea of community garden. We're still, and that's one of the reasons why we're starting to redo the boards too, is because we originally had designed this dog park and some of the park elements on the south end that we are going to remove. As far as what we're going to put in there, we do have a kid-friendly splash pad, playground, and there's still a lot of other land down there on the east end of the park that we just kind of tossed up in the air. We're kind of leaving it up to some of the rest of our design team, bringing in some other people to give us ideas of what we like. And so I love the idea of a community garden. It hasn't gone across the table yet, so that's really good.
Okay, question.
What's the very next thing that needs to happen aside from finances? Obviously, that's super important. But what's the very next thing you need? A connection, somebody to say yes, we're interested in helping with this, and then what's the thing that could kill this before you get financing?
So I think the very first thing that needs to happen is knowing whether or not TCC is on board with this from a couple different levels. A, can we use your parking lots? B, do you have any money for us? And C, what's your requirement for parking? And so those are the first 3 big things in my mind. Am I right with that? Can we use your parking lot? Yes or no? Is this enough parking for you? Yes or no? Do you have any money? Yes or no? And then, based on the money question, we start seeking outside funding for that. As far as killing the project.
Yeah, I think as far as killing the project, it would be, if someone else came in with another development idea with a bunch of money to try to create something that was less social equity based and less of a community thing and more of a for-profit charge per hour for field sports and something like that. I think that would be that would be really tough to compete with. But it's a different sort of project. You know, we talked with the Tulsa Sports Commission about this, and they're very interested in doing some really great stuff with professional sports, professional soccer in downtown. But that's very much a different thing than we're talking about with this. We're talking about something that helps the community and is able to be engaged with by all levels. So, that would be tough to compete with, but this is very different than that. This is much more like Guthrie Green than a professional sports complex. Just with a different avenue, the sports program as opposed to arts and music and entertainment.
Going back, you said, what do we need from other people? Keep this conversation going. Keep telling people about this. We'll have a Facebook up soon, website up within a month, promoting it, getting it out there, letting people know what we're trying to do, and just start building that up.
I have a comment or thought, and more on the urban planning side that I want to ask you about is, I've just wondered with all the development in North Downtown and then now with this as well, different things, there are a lot of people, homeless guys that live downtown. And I'm just curious where they've gone, and if you're doing rainwater collection, could you create some sort of social venture where we have a splash pad, but they could take showers as well or something? I mean, just something thoughtful and creative where we could start reaching out to people, just so the whole ecosystem of Tulsa is impacted and affected by something like this. Just a random thought.
I think that's a great idea. Once again, something else that hasn't come across the table yet. I think at some point, once we know that we can use the parking lot, we can't use the parking lot, and we have the design more refined based on the parking needs by the city and TCC, then we would open this up for more of a collaborative design process, meeting with you guys again, dry erase board or something, writing down those ideas like that.
The field itself for the soccer field, is it multi-purpose to the extent that would it be also be concert venue as well, to where you can do concert in the park, or is that a thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Question here, Jack.
I was just curious about the capacity.
The capacity of what, the seating or parking?
Yeah, like seating for the sport events or.
So originally we had it designed for about 2,500 people or so, but after going back and looking at the requirements for the field, and, sideline space for traffic and whatnot, I actually think we can get about 6,000 people in park seating. But then we've also have this Driller Stadium field sort of set up at the south end of our field. It's hard to see. There's a little patch of grass there. I'm not sure what the seating capacity that is. If I had to guess off the top of my head, another 500 people or so.
Question here in the back. Oh, go ahead.
That being said, so we have talked with some of the groups, TU and ORU soccer and stuff, and they've said that with that kind of seating capacity and this kind of field surface, those groups could bring things to Tulsa like regional championships for TU and ORU soccer and everything. So they're very interested in it, and I think that there is enough seating capacity to do that, to make that happen. Maybe have some small semi-pro type sports that could participate out there. We want to have a way to do a gate sale, but we don't want gate sales to be the main source of revenue for this. We really don't want that to be the driving force behind it.
Question here in the back.
I'm glad you brought up the gate sales, because I was wondering if you already touched on it, sorry, but if you raise all the funds you need to get it built, and now it's completed, and you got the first year under your belt, what's the maintenance cost? Have you thought about that? And then how do you continue to cover those costs if it's going to be something like a Guthrie where most of the time, most of the stuff is free? And if your revenue is driven off people showing up, do you have plans for like dead of winter when it's freezing, and how it could be used in very cold weather when it's not, everybody's just out there?
Okay, so that's the year-round use, I'll tell you, is that'll happen. I personally play Ultimate Frisbee, and I'm part of the Tulsa Ultimate Federation, and I'm with the Receive nonprofit that runs it here. And that's one of our biggest drawbacks, is that we can't play sometimes just because the fields are closed due to wet weather or freezing conditions. Those guys will play regardless. Rugby will play regardless. Lacrosse will play regardless. I think the usage will be there as far as that goes. As far as maintenance costs and such, so we're anticipating that the retail businesses themselves will generate some revenue, similar to how Lucky's on the Green does at Guthrie Green. They put some back into the facility, although it's not much there. I think there could be more of that here. Maintenance costs should be fairly low, so we're we're talking about maintenance of the park over here a little bit, maintenance of the filters on the water filtration system. The field surface itself, typically a synthetic turf field will last about 5 years under heavy usage. So Tulsa Field Sports Alliance currently operates the West Bank Sports Complex over there on the Southern River. One of the things we did when we went into River Parks and showed them why we should operate that was we showed a graphic overlay of the soccer field and showed how by diversifying usage, you can actually increase the longevity of the field. So if you have a soccer field, you have your certain wear areas around the goal box, but when you do lacrosse, your wear areas are totally different. They're in these little areas in the middle of the field. You do ultimate frisbee, you split that field in half. Now your wear areas around the end zones over here, and you do rugby, and it's just sort of all over the place. So we think that by diversifying field usage, we can actually increase that field replacement up to 7 or maybe 8 years. And the Tulsa Field Sports Alliance brings in enough money where they've stated that they can do the field replacement for us at 7 or 8 years. Maybe not at 5 years, but at 7 or 8 they probably could. So that's the big continual maintenance cost of this, would be replacing the field surface every 4 years above.
And then our last question for you is, how can we, the community, help you achieve your outcome goals?
Give us 17 million.
No, I think right now, our main thing right now is we're trying to build some buzz around this. We need guys talking about it. Neil here said the other day he was hearing other people talk about it in his new firm. That's exciting. That other people have heard about this. They're talking about it. That it's exciting. We're not going to build another baseball stadium, minor league baseball stadium. We're not going to build another Guthrie Green in downtown. This is something we can build. It's coming from a different angle. It'll be great for Tulsa. So keep talking it up. Keep helping us get the message out on it.
Well, let's thank Kenton and Terrell. Welcome to 1 Million Cups if you weren't here at the beginning. Glad to see so many people here. This is wonderful. If you'd like a seat, there are a few scattered up here in the front. You can make a new friend by saying this to somebody you don't know. If not, then be comfortable where you are. My name is Baron Ryan. I'm one of the organizers here at 1 Million Cups, along with Tim here in the front, Dustin, who's live tweeting somewhere, and Ben, who's also somewhere where I can't see him. But don't worry, they're all working really, really hard. The idea behind 1 Million Cups is that if we get entrepreneurs together to share 1 million cups of coffee, that the growth that we can make together is exponentially bigger than that which we could do individually. So that's why we're here, to learn about what people in the Tulsa community are doing and find ways, hopefully, that we can help them. And we're really glad that you're here to do that. We have a couple of announcements. Bright Tot, I think Autumn Morton is here. Right? Autumn Morton is over here. She's a 1 Million Cups alumna, and her company Bright Tot is featured in the Tulsa Business and Legal News, I think this week, right, or this month, or during the current edition. So let's give a hand for them. I should tell you what the company does. It's, they put together packages for their children to have an activity at home for a rainy day or whatever you want an activity for them. TEDx Tulsa is happening next month, and Dave, the man Berlin right here, is presenting, and so is Kenda Wilson. Kenda Wilson is the spoken word artist, I believe. I don't really know what that means. I've never been to a TEDx event. But we will all have that opportunity. You can get tickets at TEDxTulsa.com. So be sure, if you can, to go and support our 1 Million Cups community there. Who wants a mug? We have these cool travel mugs. It's not, it doesn't work. I was really excited about this laser pointer, but it's not showing up on the screen. We got these cool travel mugs, and we get to give them away. So at this point, we have people who were here for the first time raise their hands before, but I want you all to do it again, if you would, indulge me. Excellent. Now, if the person who invited you here, keep your hands raised, if the person who invited you here is present, please point to that person. Okay. Oh my goodness, it looks like Jacob is the clear winner. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
You're the winner of this week's mug giveaway. Thank you for the help. I asked for it and didn't actually require Ben. We also have a way that any of you can win a mug. The first presenter who fills out an application and is referred by one of you will get a mug. So you need to let us know if you talk to somebody, if you talk to Joe, say, hey Joe, you need to apply to 1 million cups because you have a startup to present, then you need to email us at Tulsa@1millioncups.com and say, hey, I referred Joe. If he fills out the application, then we will give you a mug. Does that make sense?
Does that start today?
That starts.
I just referred somebody Monday.
That starts right now. Yeah, did they already fill out the application? Sorry, yeah. That was awesome, Dave. We really appreciate that. But these are the rules of the game. Okay, enough of me talking. We're now going to have our second presenter. This is the Tulsa Startup Village, and it's going to be presented by somebody that we probably know very well. He's the proprietor of this fine establishment on the other side of the curtain, Foolish Things Coffee Company, and he's also going to be assisted by our own Tim Bickers. So let's give a hand for Justin Carpenter and the Tulsa Startup Village.
Hey, yeah, Justin. Awesome. Yeah, so first off, can you guys hear me without the microphone? No. Hello? Sorry. First off, I want to say thank you guys so much for coming out here. We are coming up on our 2nd year anniversary, our birthday for the shop. We opened it on September 13th, so 2 years is right around the corner. We're just so grateful that you guys have become patrons and come to our shop. The philosophy of why we do what we do has always been we wanted to create a place where we could bring people together. The shop, the tables, everything about how we've set up our shop has been to create a place where meetings, where conversation, where any number of different interactions between people can happen on a regular basis. We wanted to avoid, and I'm going to get philosophical, we wanted to create a place where we could avoid screens and engage actual humans, and being able to host something like this, 1 Million Cups, is so awesome for us. It's exactly in the line of what we're all about. And so thank you guys so much, the organizers for 1 Million Cups. Thank you for doing this. This is why we do what we do. So first off, thank you for that. And second off, Tim Bickers and I had met a little while back at the beginning of 1 Million Cups to talk about, okay, what does it look like for this space to be used in that vein with a larger group of people? How can we expand from, okay, just people getting a cup of coffee to how can we encourage the entrepreneurs of this city from 1 Million Cups to be able to have the resources at their disposal to do what they want to do without the struggle or the risk of whether it be getting a storefront or getting office space downtown. Most of the entrepreneurs that we talk to are people who love downtown and want to see downtown do well, but it's a risk. It's something that we're risk-averse people outside of the fact that we're entrepreneurs taking risk on our businesses, but we don't want to take as much risk as we have to. And so with that, we have started talking about this idea of collaborative brilliance, which is to say, there we go. Yeah, together, the philosophy of 1 Million Cups, how can we do more together than we would have independently? And so we looked at the resources we had available, and the resource that made itself blatantly available was actually this building. You can't see it, obviously, because there's a wall here, but there's a row of buildings behind us that is owned by First United Methodist, who is actually the landlord of this space, who we have, and first off, let me take a step back. We're so grateful for them because they have seen the passion of what we wanted to achieve here and equipped us at Foolish Things to create a place basically unhindered to pursue that goal of creating a place where people can collaborate. So thank you for them. And with the success of 1 Million Cups, and foolish things. They've given us the blessing, the green light to take over management of the building behind us, to leverage for the ecosystem of this neighborhood for the benefit of entrepreneurs. And so what we've got is a row of buildings with okay, so here is us, and then this whole block of buildings is the block of buildings behind us. You're here, and this is what we're focusing on. That we are going to be rehabbing and turning into mixed-use space specific to entrepreneurs. We wanted to create a place where the risk is low, where the ease of access is high, and where you can test out ideas without the threat of investing a boatload of capital and a boatload of time and resources to be effective at testing your ideas, piloting different ideas that you may have. Here are a couple more views of the building. And so the space is divided up between, or with an alley, into two major sections. The first, which is on the corner of 10th and Main, we are looking at dividing out into mixed-use retail space, co-working space, potentially a kitchen concept, and then you go back behind the alley, and we've been approached as we've pitched this idea by a startup incubator who's really excited and is actually in a place where they are treading water, as it were, until we have the build-out completed so that they can move in and be an anchor for this neighborhood. And so what we're really excited about, and a lot of it happened with partnering with Tide Pros again, was to revitalize this neighborhood. When we opened, we were really the only game in town when it comes to this neighborhood, and we've been able to talk with people and create a passion to empty out this parking lot crater and put life into this neighborhood where once it was just vacant lots. So, in a nutshell, that's the philosophy of what we're doing, and I'm more than happy to open things up for questions.
I love it.
Would this space here stay as a meeting area, or would you incorporate something like this into the new space so that Foolish Things could, expand into this space?
That's a great question. It's not necessarily something that we've talked about, but we're open to. Ultimately, what we want to do with this space being Foolish Things, this space being the hub of Tulsa's new startup village, which is this new neighborhood, we want to leverage all of our assets to their maximum potential so that Tulsa's a better place through the lens of entrepreneurialism. And so whatever that looks like, we're open to, but we haven't tied anything down because we're not necessarily convinced that our way is absolutely the best way. We want to partner with entrepreneurs that see what their needs are and be able to pivot to those needs so that we can leverage to the best of our ability the assets that we have. So yes, maybe, it depends.
Question here.
On that kitchen space, is that for internal use, or would that be like a commercially licensed kitchen? Because a lot of people want to sell food and drink products, but they have to comply with state requirements on that.
Sure, yeah. So right now it's just a concept. It's an idea we're throwing around, and the idea that we had was that there are restaurant concepts that want to test out an idea, but don't necessarily want to invest a lot of capital in the build out of a restaurant. And so the kitchen concept that we're talking about is basically a test kitchen where you can come in, bring your wares in. It could also be almost a co-op kitchen as well, where, okay, I may not need a full-on kitchen for the entire, every hour of every day of the week, but I may need it for 10 hours a week. And so I can take part-time, I can sign up on the schedule and use the kitchen facility for a few hours. And then, so we have a couple different ideas of how that can be used. And we want to talk to people who are in the food industry who are curious about this type of concept.
Question here in the front.
So I have a couple questions. One, what's your process for one being able to submit to say, hey, I want to have my business in one of these, or at least for consideration? And then also, what's your time frame for having something available?
Hello, everyone. So the onboarding process, a lot of the times when you're signing a lease as a startup, it's a very scary and intimidating thing. You've got the 12-month lease, they'll give you a discount, it's a 36-month lease. And guys are like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to be a business in 3 months. Right? So the onboarding process is really going to be very simple. If you need a space, like in the co-working or the office block, and you want an office, pay for the space, and then come in, and it's a month-to-month thing. And so that'll be run by entrepreneurs. We'll have a waiting list, so it'll be very clear. And we want to incentivize a few entrepreneurs by giving them maybe a free office to come in and actually help us manage that process. Sort of like 1 Million Cups, where guys like us are recruiting companies to speak. We'll do that very similarly. We have a guy in there who's recruiting companies to come in and move in, but then there's no long-term risk where if I'm not a company in 6 months, I don't want to still have a lease. And I've experienced that before personally, so that's part of the motivation there. So the timeline is we, last month, were given the rights to start piloting this and testing it. So now it's a matter of financial conversation. So we're engaging philanthropic community. We're also engaging investors who want to make a difference in the entrepreneurial space but maybe don't quite know how to do that. This is a great way. Give guys a bigger runway to be able to test their idea. So we're looking at initial numbers, depending on how high end we go. This was, if you don't know, this whole building was dirt floor when Justin took it over, and it was crappy, and it looked terrible. And so we're going to go more bootstrap than this. It's not going to quite look as polished and fancy. So we're looking at probably 300 to 500,000, depending on what we expose when we pull back the roof and all that. So.
Question in the back row.
Yeah, you had mentioned that as far as like the space, like you had mentioned the kitchen was going to be more like you can rent, like go in and have a certain time, a little bit of time each week, whereas the offices would be month to month. Is it going to be a thing where, like say for instance, it's the waiting list, is there going to be a maximum time that you can be in there? Or have you, companies can like monopolize? And then I have a follow-up question to that.
Yeah, so on the kitchen concept, there are a number of nonprofits and foundations in town who are wanting something like that and are hearing food truck entrepreneurs and other people talk about that. What we're saying is we're opening that up. If there's somebody that wants to, as an entrepreneur, says, I want to lead that up, I want to be the point person to run something like that, then that's great. And we're going to open up that entire section for a kitchen concept. So right now, it's not fleshed out at all. It's going to be having a conversation with somebody who's got the money. First of all, who wants to do it, it's probably $250,000 to do something like that. And then an entrepreneur who says, I want to actually run it. So to give you a great case study, someone like Heavenly Bread, they have to go out to the French Hen at an ungodly time in the morning and use their kitchen. And they give a lot of their product as dinner rolls, right? Someone like her would be great to manage this, run it, and work with other entrepreneurs who have food concept ideas. So it's not fleshed out to where you can monopolize it, you can have it for 10 hours. It's really going to depend on who wants to bite down and pay for it, firstly. We're open to it in our space. And then secondly, who wants to run it? I personally would be the worst person to run a kitchen.
And I just had one more question. You had mentioned that you want to pivot to the needs of entrepreneurs. So other than providing like space physically, like what other ways are you going to be helping entrepreneurs that are using the space?
Ultimately, we are we're trying to fit the need of partners. We want to be. We've got a huge network. Tulsa, we were ranked on Forbes as the #1 entrepreneurial city in the country, and we see our role as more connectors than it is as giving tangible resources, whether that be coaching or any number of different needs. So the assets that we have are a building to test your ideas and a network. Exactly what 1 Million Cups is, but in a brick and mortar facility that is run 24 hours a day as opposed to 1 hour on Wednesday mornings.
Something I would say, like Paul Wizakowski in the room, right? When we worked on his Hilo project, he was assembling things in his garage in his living room, and because it was cheap, right? And then, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had storage, or you may still have it out by the airport because it was cheap. Yet he lives in South Tulsa. You know, it's a huge drive to get out there. If something like this had existed when Paul launched his company, he could come in. We've got a section blocked off for light manufacturing assembly, where he could put his products together, package them, have inventory for them, and probably could hire an intern who's in the startup village that needs a little extra money to ship it and fulfill the orders. So something like that collaboratively, he could have scaled his company much easier for probably the same cost, and it would have been a whole lot more fun for him than having to just sit in his garage and make his wife, when they're trying to have a date night, package 1,000 helo straps. So that's sort of the resources and the angle that we're going for, is collaboratively you can do more. If you put 6 entrepreneurs in a room, they're all going to give you an idea or a thought or an angle that you would have never thought of. And if you can collaborate across different talent skills as well, then you're really harnessing a great ecosystem in the community.
Question over here.
Hi. Can you go into more detail about the retail space? Would they need to meet certain requirements in a certain period of time to be able to stay in that space, financial goals, or how would you manage that?
Right. So, yeah, basically pay your rent. And the way that we are going to be pricing what we're doing, we've looked at pricing per square footage in the Hodges Bend area, the Green Arch area, Blue Dome, Brady, and it's anywhere from $15 to $25 per square foot for renting retail space. And what we would charge for rent is going to be significantly less than that. So as long as you pay your bills, we're content with you hanging out. That's the extent of our requirements. Outside of it being a reasonable company, we're not looking for a new downtown or midtown adult superstore to move in here.
Question here in the front, your left.
Hi guys, I'm Cal Morris with the SCORE organization, just down the street here. Boy, this is music to our ears. This is just a great opportunity that we can collaborate with you on the clients that we have going through. For those of you who don't know SCORE, we mentor starting up businesses that probably 50% of our work, and then we work with existing businesses too. We have 30 volunteers from retired and working industries, which I would suggest 2 things we could offer. Not only our clients that we have, that we counsel, that would be great resources for just looking for what your tenants to work here, but also we ought to get together and just discuss networking and the resources that you might need to build this out with the contacts we have throughout Tulsa with these 30 individuals. I'm sure we could probably help you there with some of that build out too.
Honestly, the most exciting part about this whole project to Tim and I, and this is something we've said from the beginning, we wanted to bring something to this neighborhood that is an asset and is a benefit to the neighborhood that's not going to compete with the rest of downtown. You see Brady and Blue Dome are very much entertainment districts, a lot of restaurants, and while we are a cafe restaurant, we didn't want to attract a whole bunch of other restaurants to the neighborhood. And so the most exciting part to us is we have an opportunity to create an ecosystem that is self-sufficient. We've got TCC across the way who's going to be educating and equipping young minds, and not necessarily so young minds, to be productive and to be free thinkers. And then we have this concept of the startup village where we can equip people with good ideas and give them a place to test those out and have a little bit less anxiety about failing. And then if people progress out of our space, it's too small for them. The next concept is the Boston Avenue multi-sport, where there is going to be some more structured storefronts that they can potentially move into. And so we really are trying to create, and that's why we've called it the Tulsa Startup Village, a village that is geared strictly to the entrepreneurs and the startup concepts of this city. We want to equip them. We're excited.
I have a question. How are you seeking input for the things that you are still unsure about with the Startup Village?
Yeah, you can go to the next slide. First of all, email us, talk to us today. We're starting to see the money conversation at this point. So you can email me, tim@emergingideas.com. We have a waiting list. We really think, and we'll prove this today and in the coming weeks, but we think the style of what we're going for is more a maker style, someone who actually has a physical product that wants that space where they could actually come in and work on it, and then if it progresses, they can have retail space to sell it. And then it'll also be someone who enjoys collaboratively working with people. So that's sort of the idea. But if you want to give us feedback, that's sort of what we're looking for. You can email us. We're looking for community partnerships. We're seeking funding. And then we also would want to know if you're interested in this. If you want to be in the kitchen side, that's great, because as we're going to have these philanthropic conversations, we can show them, hey, we've got a number of companies that are interested in this exact concept.
Two things. First off, just sign me up for all the sweat equity. Any help you guys need.
Dave, your name is already on the list.
Number one, running electric work, I do all that stuff, so I'll be glad to help. Two, one thing I just thought of, one of the challenges that I'm having is looking at starting a few different podcasts. So I don't know if that was something that was in the idea, but if you had like one, it doesn't have to take up a lot of space, but just a soundproof studio specifically for podcasting, you could basically rent that space. I would guarantee you that it'd be running 24 hours a day, because people would come in with all that equipment, record their podcasts and broadcast them out. That's a great way to put all the great startups on the map too, that a lot of people are using resources for. There's a lot of great ones here in Tulsa. So
That's
I don't know if that was on
no,
the
I mean, that's a very cool idea. From the back corner there, we had a very small section. That's sort of like the Dream Big section.
There you go.
You know, we had thought maybe an assembly where you could put wooden bow ties together or whatever. Or maybe, yeah, we put a little sound studio in there. I've done studio work over in Southern Africa, so yeah, that'd be up my alley. But your name isn't listed.
Okay, so sort of to tag along.
This is going to be a hard question. It's Janae.
Okay, so we haven't had a kitchen incubator, so this is a need that we have. But what about the other resources like SCORE and I2E and the Forge and Fab Lab? What collaboration have you done with them? I imagine that part of the goal is to get these collisions to make entrepreneurs aware of what resources are out there. So I'm just curious to know what you've already sought from them as far as getting started, and then how you'll kind of move this to be a collaborative process with other resources that are here.
Yeah, that's a really cool question. So it took us a year to get sort of the rights to the building space. So we were really cautious about talking to anybody about collaboration. So this is the first sort of pull the curtain back and say, okay, we're able to communicate that. My background, I'm all about collaboration. Like I've been in that siloed world, and it's very difficult. So, our thought is once we have this fleshed out a little bit more, and I can concretely put a vision deck down, and I can talk to Mark and answer a lot of his very specific questions and go to Fab Lab and communicate that, then we will. We're going to engage that probably when I get back from my next trip, first part of October. So, but yeah, that's on our list, and we have a whole list of people, community partners we want to talk to directly, because it is important, and we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We just have a building asset that we want to open up to the community and use. Sort of the thought behind it was, the reason we stumbled upon this was, we heard that the building was possibly going to be turned into green space. And just as Tulsans, and I grew up on Route 66, that really angered me. I was like, we cannot tear this building down. I remember when it was Radio Inc. So that was sort of the thought behind it, and then we thought, well, we got to come up with something that we could use it for. And so a year later, the Tulsa Starter Group.
That wasn't that hard.
Not too hard.
Guys, we have a couple minutes left. Are there any questions that you would like to specifically ask the community students here to get some response from? I didn't ask you that before. Sorry to be on the spot.
No, I think that I didn't expect that. Honestly, yeah, Tim talked about it a lot. It's been kind of a thread in the whole morning is if you have something that you want to see, if you have something to contribute, whether that be money, ideas, management, any number of different things that you think you could be an asset, like Dave has already committed to sweat equity. If you have something that you want to be involved in, shoot us an email, and we'd love to sit down and talk to you. If you're a business that you want to start up, send us an email. Really lobby for the Boston Avenue Multisport to happen in this neighborhood as opposed to somewhere else. I don't know. I love your city. Honestly, if you can lobby for the development, intentional development of these parking lots to go vertical instead of surface lots, so that we can develop a cohesive interdispersal loop as opposed to blanket neighborhoods or pocket neighborhoods, our city's going to be a better place.
Yeah, then what I would add to that is together we can do more. And so if there's more conversation from entrepreneurs saying, hey, you have an idea and you can do it, and you come into the Startup Village and just get inspired, that's going to put more people interested in what I2E is doing, what the Forge is doing, what GetWit's doing, because we're all talking about each other. This isn't we're going to be the only startup hub in the city. This is a parking crater, and they wanted to tear the building down. Let's come up with an idea that will help entrepreneurs. And I think long term, if we take that approach as Tulsans and we don't sit in silos, but we grab each other by the arm and say, I'm going to take you over and introduce you to so-and-so, I think that's where we become an even greater ecosystem.
Back here.
I kind of wonder about how you're going to let people know and get the word out. I've been kind of doing my own thing for 3 years and didn't realize the even search for startup anything really. And I just wonder how you get the word out to people like me that are just kind of doing their own thing but don't really know that the help is out there.
Yeah, welcome to the club. That's why we started 1 Million Cups. Wanted to pull guys out of their closets and say, hey, there are other people just like you that have scoliosis from typing 12 hours a day. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Once we get going, we'll have a site, we'll have Facebook, and we'll just start posting cool stuff of what guys are making and sharing that to where when you're searching Tulsa startups, whatever, you'll see 1 Million Cups, you'll see the Tulsa Startup Village. It's very SEO friendly already. All of those. And then people like you telling the 10 guys that you know that have scoliosis as well, and you're coming, to see what we're up to.
All right, one more.
So the biggest question I think with the entrepreneurial community in Tulsa right now is what's our bandwidth and what's our capacity. And as executive director of the Forge, I think I have a lot of fear that there's too much. But I think that I'm really excited to hear that you guys are open to collaboration, because I think one thing that the community really could benefit from is like an entrepreneurial network. So, as the Forge, we have tenants that would probably really benefit from using a makerspace. So having some sort of collaborative effort where we can say, if you're a tenant at the Forge, you also get blank number of hours a month at the Startup Village with their resources, and vice versa. We have a whole slew of resources from an incubation standpoint and mentorship and guidance from a business development standpoint that, it doesn't sound like educational and like kind of the resources you're going to have as much of a focus on. So I think there's a lot of cross collaboration that could happen, even though they're two physical separate spaces. But we're not far away from each other. So I think that's really encouraging, and I would look forward to talking more about ways that our two organizations can connect and help each other out.
Yeah, thank you. And I think to that end, when we started 1 Million Cups, a lot of people, we sort of placed informal bets as how many startups could we find, how long would it last? And I heard numbers of time, probably half a dozen times, people thought you won't even make it past 3 months to find startups. And here we are next month, or 2 months will be at a year, and we're still having startups roll through. So I think the thing is, entrepreneurs don't raise their hand and go, hey, I'm over here, gonna make $1 million this year. We don't do that. We get out and we work. And then you bump into each other randomly and go, oh, hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? Oh, you do a coffee club? Oh, yeah. Oh, cool. And then a year later, it's like, hey, yeah, we like each other. So that's it's going to happen. More collisions, more people bumping into each other. I'm doing ecosystem work in Zimbabwe. It's a failed nation. They have no currency, worst economy in the world, and we've started something similar. And startups are coming out of the woodwork, and people are investing in companies. And so we see it. Entrepreneurs happen, and then when you see entrepreneurialism as a viable path, then that's when it even happens. Then guys start leaving their desk jobs, and lawyers start becoming startup guys.
Yeah. We've already covered this pretty well, but just go ahead and button this for us. What can we do to help you?
Email, get on the waiting list. If you're looking for retail or co-work or any sort of makerspace, or you want a kitchen idea, email us. Let's talk. Let's figure out what you're looking for, and then we'll keep you in the loop on timeline as we start approaching people. If you have a spare $100 grand and you're like, you know what, I don't need that $100 grand. Talk to us. We'll let you know what to do with it, or introduce us to people that really, made a bunch of money doing oil and gas, and they want to make a difference in the community. But they don't have the time or the sweat equity to actually build something like this. And then the third way is if you know someone who's really cool and could bootstrap a construction project, or like Dave, sweat equity, put the tool belt on, approach us. We'd like to have a good time with you and see if we can turn an old building into something really wonderful for our city.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for coming to 1 Million Cups. This has been super exciting downtown development. If you're here for the first time, you should come back next week, and then the next week after that we'll have a presentation, and then after that we'll have another one. So every week, same time. If you're here just because you like downtown development, the other stuff we do is pretty exciting as well. So consider coming back for our normal startup stuff, and enjoy your week. Thanks a lot.